All right, ladies and gentlemen, it is my pleasure to introduce the last session of the day for all you guys. We're going to be having a very fascinating conversation about config profiles. And please help me welcome to the stage, coming from the far-off land of Poland, a former salsa dancer turned staff senior software engineer. Give it up for Arek!
Thanks. Thanks, Michael. There should be some fancy music playing, maybe salsa. Hello, Jamf Nation. Welcome to the presentation about Configuration Profiles 3.0. Thanks for being here at the last slot of the sessions. We will try to see if it wouldn't be nice to have everything, everywhere, all at once, in the context of the configuration profiles. But you may also wonder, why 3.0? What were the previous version? Don't worry. I will answer this question here too. What's the same-day support and how we can redefine it with the new approach? We will answer this question too. How configuration profiles play important role in the modern MDM? What were the motivations for this project? And what could be the future of this project? And what's the direction? So if you are interested in answering this question, I will try to answer them today. But first, let me answer a question, who actually am I? So, I'm a staff software engineer working at Jamf, and I was a tech lead of this project since the ideation phase. I worked mainly in the Jamf Pro, where I was involved in initiatives like APNS, some early stages of AI things you can now play with, and I was mainly working on the configuration profile domain. And I come from Katowice, in Poland, where we have engineering office, so we craft these things there. And I would like to underline a couple of things. So as I'm an engineer, it will be a little bit from the context of engineering. But I hope you will see how solving both engineering problems helps solve also your problems and helps give you things you need to have. The examples will be mainly in the Jamf Pro because, as you may know, legacy profiles are only available as a blueprint component in the Jamf Pro. But as you may heard on the State of the Union of Education, legacy profiles are coming as a blueprint component next year into school too. So feel free to welcome and see what's coming to your product. And this presentation will cover the blueprints. However, we will just focus on the config profiles there. So there were cool presentations about blueprints, and probably you had a lot of conversation about the core of the modern MDM, which are blueprints. We will focus here just on the legacy payloads component, which are configuration profiles. And I'm from Poland, so I hope you will understand everything that I would like to share with you. I will try to use some memes because they helped. We use a lot of them in Poland, and I sometimes exaggerate some things, but I try to underline things to help you better understand what I mean. So let's start. We are here to talk about Apple device management. And let me ask you a question. Where is the place where we can see the Apple device management protocol in a structured way? Does anybody knows? Yes, the documentation is a cool place where we can see how it's documented, what we can do with it. But do you know any other places where you can see it in a structured way? GitHub, yeah. So, a couple years ago, Apple released Apple Device Management Schema, which is really great. And there is Apple MDM schema defined in the YAML files, which comes from JSON schema files. So this is the GitHub public repository, and here you can see how the protocol looks like. For me as an engineer, it's a really cool place to see what changes are coming and what actually we can do with it. How it looks inside. So there are a couple of directories there where we can see things you know, that declarative management, where we have declarations like activations of declarations, assets, configurations, and the other stuff like status. And we can also see here MDM, where we have a check-in, commands, and of course profiles. It contains 17 directories and 308 files. And what do you think is the biggest part of this Apple device management schema, and how we can actually measure it? So maybe we can count the files in each directory and then aggregate them and see how many files are in each directory to see which parts are bigger than others. But as you may know, one file could be much, much larger than other file. So maybe it will be a better idea to count lines of files, aggregate them, and then aggregate all of them for the directory. And who do you think is the winner? Yeah, we are on the configuration profile session, so configuration profiles are actually the biggest part of this device management schema. And as we can see, it contains 128 files and above 20,000 lines. On the second place, there are commands, and then declarative management starts, where on the fourth place, there are declaration configurations, which we will cover today too. How it looks like in comparing to each other. So if we will compare the numbers, it looks like configuration profiles are probably almost a half of the Apple device management. So quite important topic here, quite a lot of stuff you can do with configuration profiles. So that's why we are talking now about it, and that's why we bring it to the blueprints to help you do a lot of things with Apple device management schema in the totally new way. And when are the changes appearing to this device management schema? Do you know? What are the moments when this device management schema changes? Apple releases, yes. So during Apple releases of the new OSs, they put some new stuff there on a separate branch. And finally, when it's a stable feature, it's on the release branch. And the most of the changes are coming there, of course, on WWDC. So on WWDC, our company mission is to give you the same-day support. So how the same-day support looks like with the WWDC, Apple is releasing new stuff. We are working on it, and we are giving to you as a same-day support on the fall release. So best we can do is to give you same-day support as the fall release. And let me explain why is that. So when the changes appear there, everybody is looking on them. You are able to see them, we are able to see them, and we need to analyze them, do the triage, and then start the implementation. Implementation, of course, contains the implementation part, quality checks part, etc. And at this stage of the same-day support, you cannot see anything appearing in your products. The first moment you can see something, it's the beta. So if you are assigned to the beta is the first moment when you can touch it and you can play it with your device fleet, because you may also have some beta OSs on your managed devices, and you may also want to test some things. The next part, when you can test it, is RC program. So if you are in the RC program, it's also another stage where you can play with it. And finally, when Apple releases it as a stable feature, we are also releasing it at the same time, and that's our same-day support. But still, during the implementation, you cannot play with it. You cannot use it. And moreover, some things are appearing not as the same-day support, but as the fast follow. And even though Apple is adding new stuff to the MDM protocol, some of the stuff is released as the stable feature from Apple, but unfortunately, it's not released to the Jamf Pro. So wouldn't it be nice if we change this approach? So if we can, as soon as possible, when it's announced by Apple, give it to you, to your product, to help you play with it, to allow you, to enable you to play with it as the beta feature. So you may have your device fleet in the beta OSs, and you want to check new stuff before it will be stable OS, and your end users will start to upgrade your managed devices. So with this approach, we can enable you to play with it as soon as possible. So it will be great. And it's actually something we did this year. So the WWDC changes appeared to the MDM schema at June 12th. And it was called SID 26. And during our beta program of the configuration profiles 3.0, known as legacy payloads, we give it to you the next day. So that was the seed, that was the changes, where Apple introduced 4 new keys to the restriction payload, and 2 of them were connected with the Safari. It was allow Safari history cleaning and allow Safari private browsing. And it was on the June 12th, and the yet next day it was in your public beta instance, and you were able to play with it. So that's the change. Also, this is how it looked like in your product, so you were able to use it and see it exactly the same way how Apple defined it. And the next week, we announced the GA, so those who were not at the beta program, that was the moment when you were able to use it and play with the new stuff much sooner than fall release. And also, during this WWDC period, when these features were not stable, Apple was also adding new stuff, so there was yet another key to the restrictions, and we also added them as soon as possible. And I'm talking about blueprints here. So if everything I'm covering now is in this place, in Jamf Pro instance, so under the blueprints. It's unfortunately not appearing here, where you need to choose first the device, so the computer and mobile devices, but let's jump into this section for a minute. So what are configuration profiles 1.0? So basically, the example are macOS restrictions, really popular payload. And macOS restrictions and all other configuration profiles 1.0 payloads are those when you need to click the configure button. That's the easiest way to recognize them. And those are the payloads where you want to set one thing to be other than the default. You get all of the other things set by default and sent to your device, which is maybe something you are not expecting and maybe a little bit disappointing. So that's why the configuration profiles 2.0 were the design. So with the configuration profiles 2.0, and here example are mobile device restrictions, you are able to set just one setting and send it to device, and no other settings are actually sent to the device. Sounds cool. It solves other problems as well, so why don't we migrate macOS restrictions to configuration profiles 2.0? You may wait for this, and it's actually not happening. And this is because a lot of engineering problems we had under the hood, which doesn't allow us to refactor it for you with the speed we want and give it to you as fast as we can. So within the configuration profiles 2.0, there is a specific payload, which is application and custom settings. And let's take a look inside. So application and custom settings is a payload where you can choose from Jamf integrations like Jamf Connect, Jamf Protect, etc. And the changes to this payload are appearing not only with the Jamf release, but new stuff is adding there during the Jamf release. So these are the Jamf products you can integrate with. There are also products from the partners, so Microsoft and Google are adding things there as well. And you can also upload your own schema, and it will generate the UI for you. The standard for uploading schema here is JSON schema. It's a worldwide standard. So combining this approach with the device management schema, which is quite nicely structured, it will give us a generative data-driven approach, which enables us to drive things quickly to you and as fast as we can. So now let's take a look how it works under the hood. Let's talk about MDM protocol. So if we have MDM protocol and we have device and MDM server, which is in our example Jamf Pro, and we want to enforce something, we need to third-party player. Do you know what it is? APNS, correctly. So if we want to enforce something on the device, we need to trigger the APNS, and APNS is allowed to trigger the device, and then the device do the check-in, and the result of this can be the exchanging some commands, and it could be install profile command. So that's in a bigger shortcut how it looks like. In DDM, in a big shortcut, transporting declaration looks similar, but once the declaration is transported to the device, deployed to the device, there is a bunch of new things it can do because it has activation. So declaration can be delivered to the device, and after activation, it can send some status to the MDM server. It can also ask for some resource, and this is something that we will see today. And we have a bunch of declarations that we can use. So let's first take a look on some of them which are present in the blueprints. So the passcode. The passcode declaration is a declaration which enforces the password policy on the device. So we can use the passcode configuration, but doesn't it look familiar to you? Yeah, there is also a passcode payload, you know, and we can see that it do exactly the same thing. So we can see that Apple is adding a parity between DDM and MDM, and DDM is probably a future. So in this case, it looks like the pointing Spider-Man. These are the two things you can do the same thing. Within this configuration, there is yet one really interesting. It's a legacy payload configuration. So the legacy payload configuration specify an MDM v1 profile to download and install. And its type is com.apple.configuration.legacy. And it contains only one key, the profile URL. And it's actually the URL to download the profile. And this is the way how we can wrap MDM profiles you have experience with to the DDM world. So how it will look like under the hood. So if we send such a declaration to the device, and if it will activate, it will call this profile URL, and it will call it with MDM certificates. So this is the way how we can ensure that something is some device which is calling this profile URL will be authorized to do it. So the MDM server needs to verify this MDM certificate because it knows these MDM certificates. And after this, it will send back the plist, and the profile will appear on the device and apply the settings. In the documentation, it's specified that this URL is to download and install the profile. It needs to start with HTTPS, and it's stated that it must be hosted by the MDM server, probably because of this device certificate checking. There are some limitations to the enrollment, but we have actually two ways how we can wrap configuration profiles with the declaration. So there is interactive one, where end user can do something before it applies to the device, but we choose the legacy, the basic one, to actually wrap configuration profiles in the declarations. So in the effect, we can have legacy payloads looking exactly the same as declarations. And thanks to that, we can have it as the blueprint component. So if we will go to a blueprint component library, you will see that next to the declaration configurations, there are legacy payloads. So these are the example ones. And of course, there are restrictions. So at the beginning, we started with just 8 representative payloads. And based on your feedback, which is really valuable for us, and also with supporting other controls in our engine, we were able to increase the number of payloads. And I haven't put here any number of the current number of legacy payloads because they are appearing, and we are adding more and more and more. So we started from 8. We have now above 30. So you may expect more and more soon. And it's not only how fast we can deliver them to you and not block you in anything, but also we can solve some problems we are not able to solve in the previous approach. So let's talk about the problem of finding Apple key. So let's take, for example, this key, enforce software update delay from the restrictions. So how to find this key in the restriction payload? Which setting I need to select to have this key on the device with the selected value? It's not so simple to find it. It's not so simple to guess. So it's a quite problem, and I know that a lot of you want to exactly know what settings are enforced on the device. So the only way to find out is to do some clicking and download the plist and check what's actually there. In the new approach, you can take this key directly from Apple documentation, and you can search for it. So if you want to do something with it, like this key is deprecated since the newest OS, you can actually find it, and you can do something with it, whatever you want. It's also tagged with the category. So another way how you can find something within the payload is actually using some filters. So if you want to find the keys for iOS, macOS, and other OSs, if you want to find the supervised keys, or if you want to find the keys within some category, like, for example, Apple Intelligence keys, you are able to do it using filters. So let's say your use case is that you want to restrict all of the Apple Intelligence key for some reason. And we are adding more UI enhancement to help you work with those profiles. So we are just not copying anything that Apple provides. And a good example could be the rating code, region code. So you have here a list of countries to be selected. And in the Apple documentation, there is a range list with countries code. So instead of giving you this countries code, you may be confused what they mean. We give you the list of countries code, but on the device, it's the correct range. Also, rating apps is another example where you have here values to be selected, app's rating number. And in the Apple documentation, it's stated only as an integer. So instead, giving you a field where you can put any integer number, we give you this range list because it's not actually a range list, it's stated what should be there in the content of this key. And in case of the UI, let's talk about Jamf payload concept. So there are some payloads like security and privacy in the old approach, where you will not find it in Apple device management schema. And why is that? Because security and privacy is an example of payload which combines a couple of Apple payloads, so those from the Apple MDM schema. And in specific examples, it just takes a few keys from one payload. So if you will go to migrate your security and privacy, you will see it splitted to the couple Apple of payloads. But of course, based on your feedback, if you'll see any examples for Jamf payloads, we may give to you, and we have a couple ideas what we can give to you. We are able to do it with this approach as well, because we know that it can help some segments of our clients to have better set of the settings together. So that's the concept of the Jamf payload. Keep in mind, if you would like to migrate from the old solution, there are a couple of Jamf payloads in the config profiles 1.0 and 2.0. So now let's talk about scoping. Scoping differs also from the other approach. So in the config profiles 1.0 and 2.0, the first thing you were obligated to do is to choose between if you would like to create a computer configuration profile or mobile device configuration profile. And to define the scope, you need to define the scoping for the computers and separately for the mobile devices. So you needed to do it twice. So if you wanted to have one set of restrictions, one set of Wi-Fi, etc., you needed to have two copies of it, and you needed to do it twice, and moreover, manage it twice. So if you would like to change something, and you would like to have it appearing for both a computer and mobile device, you needed to manage it in two places. It changes because in the blueprints, you can mix scope. So device type level is not the first-class citizen anymore. So the first thing you need to create is actually an asset you would like to have. So it's a configuration, it's a legacy payload. You're starting with defining the blueprint itself. And then you need to choose the scope, and you can combine one thing you are configuring, so one legacy payload like restrictions, to both mobile devices and computers. And the device level and the device recognition, so what will apply to device and not, is on the second level. So you will see it on the component library, so you can see which payloads applies to which device type. which combines to the multiple, so the restrictions apply to all of the device types. And within the restrictions, you will also see on the key level which keys apply to which device, which OS type. So this is how we changed this approach. And it's a solution similar to how Apple defines it. And we can see that Apple now is trying to unify OSs by bringing, for example, the same OS version number for them. So enough talking. Let's now try to see some demo. You may see similar demos like this, but let me go through how you can see things from the blueprint itself, so from your Jamf Pro console to actually your device. So I have a Jamf Pro instance, which has computer and mobile device. And I'm going to the blueprints. I'm not picking computer or mobile device first. So let's go there. And here I can use some templates, but I will choose to create a blueprint. Let's name it JNAC 2025 demo. And CP 3.0 in action. And now I can pick from the component library what I want to configure. And as you can see, there are configuration legacy payloads. There are also configuration. I can filter from the component library if I want, because it will be a lot more configuration profiles. But what I can also do, I can search for the specific payload I want to choose. So let's pick restrictions. So I'm picking restrictions, and I'm interested in one key, allow camera. I want to set it to false. So I'm putting here the name of the key, how Apple defines it, setting to false, and I'd like to additionally set the Apple Intelligence reporting to be restricted to false. Because I may have some R&D top secret project, and I like to have those settings. And I have my employees who need to have this restriction on their devices. So now I need to pick the scope. And I'm able to pick both the top secret computer group and both mobile device top secret group. And now I'm saving it, and the deploy button is now able to be clicked. I'm clicking the deploy button, and this is where the whole magic happened under the hood. So we can see that blueprint deployment started, and this is the moment where we should see the deployment progress changing. And it took some time, of course, but you don't have to reload the page, which is probably a normal habit. We can just wait for this deployment progress to be updated. And we can see 2 deployments are successful because I have just 2 devices. Let's see how it looks like on the device. So as you can see, I have a camera able to be turned on. But after applying these settings, it will gone, and it's gone. Let's see why it's that. Let's go to the settings, to the device management, MDM profile, and the configurations. This is the place where I can find it. And I see there is a JNAC 2025 demo, the blueprint name, and we can see restrictions here and settings I've chosen. So camera is restricted and Apple Intelligence reporting. On the computer, within the settings, I will not find those profiles next to the other profiles I had, but I also need to go to the MDM profile, see the declarations here, profiles, and I have the same blueprint name here, the same declaration name, and I can see that these settings are also the same I chose before. So this is how it looks like on the device, and you can find those settings in the different place here. So please keep in mind that you need to go to the mobile device MDM profiles first to see what's on the device. So that was about the UI, and that was demo from the UI. Let's now talk about API. So as a company, we want to be API first, but how you can manage your configuration profiles 1.0 and 2.0 using the just Jamf Pro API. Which API you need to choose, Classic API or Jamf Pro API to manage configuration profiles? Unfortunately, you can only use the Classic API. Configuration profiles are not in the Jamf Pro API. And as I said, as a company, we would like to be API first, and to have you being able to manage configuration profiles with the Jamf Pro API, first, we need to refactor all of the 1.0 payloads to be 2.0. So if we would like to really be API first, we cannot stack with this solution. So let's go to the developer portal, where next to the Jamf Pro API, we have the Platform API. And in the Platform API, we are truly API first, because to configure configuration profiles, the only thing you need to know is the contract and the body. So you need to know the Blueprint API contract, and you need to know what you need to put in the body. So we can put declaration component, so declaration configuration, or DDM profile, which is also known as legacy payload. So knowing just these two things will allow you to do whatever you want with the Blueprint API. So let's see how it looks like. Here is a list of the endpoint you can use. So you can see that you can create a blueprint and deploy blueprint, something that we did on the UI. So let's see how the create a new blueprint post endpoint look like. So here you have a description, how it looked like, and a lot of useful things, and example of a body, and let's take a look how the body should look like. So let's take this configuration part, and let's zoom it. So to create a blueprint with the configuration profile, within the configuration, you need to put the structure you already know, because within the configuration, you have first top-level keys like payload display name, which is the config profile name. Here we are naming it restrict camera. You have payload content, and inside payload contents, you have put payloads you want to configure with putting their payload type. So here is an example of a restrictions, which payload type is com.apple.application.access, and I'm just setting camera to be false. And that's all. You can call it, and it will apply. You may ask how the things that are not available to be configured on the UI will look like actually on the UI. And currently, the rule is that what happened at the API stays at the API. So you will be still able to see it if you want it, but you won't be able to manage it, and you need to manage it by the API. But it won't block you. It won't blow up your Jamf Pro instance. This is how it will look like. So if you would like to, for example, configure Relay and Acme certificate together, you need to do it using API. And it's quite an important topic, because with API, you can do a lot of things on your own, like you have some automation in place, you have some scripting, you maybe have your own client, and API is a way to integrate. And as you may heard on the keynote, there is yet another way how you can manage your Jamf Pro instance by using infrastructure as a code approach. So it's, for me as an engineer, it's quite obvious approach, because this is exactly something that we are doing by managing our cloud infrastructure. So we are using infrastructure as a code approach, and we are just doing some testing and seeing some things by clicking the UI. So I'm really happy that this approach will be available for you as well to be configured, and API is something that enables it. And also API is an important topic, because API is a highway to AI. So thanks to having those API, imagine having MCP server which uses this API, and I can imagine you having your own agent where you can attach this MCP server and do whatever you want. If you don't have your own agent, you want to use our stuff, you can use AI Assistant. And if you see on the State of the Union and on the keynote, with AI Assistant, you are able to ask what's inside your blueprints. It's read-only, but you can find a lot of useful stuff, like finding conflicts and finding even conflict between configuration profile with the passcode payload and the blueprint with the declaration configuration. So quite the cool things you can do thanks to having those APIs. So now let's talk about adoption, because to have configuration profiles 3.0, you need to have blueprints, because blueprints are the only way to have these configuration profiles. And to have blueprints, you need to have your admin SSO enabled. So the admin SSO, it's a key that opens you gates to a lot of cool things you can do with it and things described today. It also opens your door to the declarative management, because stuff described here is based on the declarative management, and also declarative management approach. Declarative management thinking is different approach you also need to adapt to. And there is also yet one thing. You need to migrate from the previous solution to the blueprints. And as you may heard on the keynote or State of the Union, it is something that we are going to help you with because based on your feedback, we know that you need it. So we are working on helping you with this. But if you will adopt to this new solution, you will have everything. So most of the possible Apple keys and payloads being able to configure, you will have it everywhere, so there won't be any situation like you have different restrictions for mobile device and different restrictions for computers, so you can create them once and have them on all of your devices, managed devices types. And you can have it all at once, so as soon as possible it's available for you, we will deliver it this way. So having everything, everywhere, all at once, it's possible, and this is the way how we are trying to go. Thank you very much for your attention. And I believe now it's a time for questions.
So we'll just do Q&A by, you'll raise your hand and I'll run the mic to you, OK?
Are there any plans to expand the capabilities of scoping for blueprints?
I know that there are plans because the scoping possibilities you had in the previous solution compared to the new are some kind of limited. There are reasons for that, but I know that we hear your feedback and changes are coming, but it's more related to the blueprint engine than the configuration profiles, but yes.
Okay. Specifically, exclusions would be very nice for troubleshooting.
Yeah, we know that feedback, we are aware, but thanks for asking for this.
For settings that are applied, legacy profile and the new declarative, do these show up in the managed preferences folder? Because a lot of tools scan that to look for their compliance and settings, like your software deferrals. How do these show up on the computer?
Yeah, so I'm not sure if they are in the managing settings, but you can see profiles which were deployed in the inventory, so in the Jamf Pro. You may see it. So I believe there are ways to see it, but I'm not sure if they are in managed preferences on the device.
Yeah, that's my concern, because you got tools, say Tanium, which is scanning for compliance locally. It needs to know if those settings are applied or not, or all of a sudden all our compliance is going to go way down.
Yes, I know that's important, and I think if Apple wants this thing to be major and wants to switch you to use DDM, I think something like this will be available, or maybe already it is, but I'm not sure where it is. Thanks.
We got time for a few more questions. Perfect.
Hi, I have a couple of questions. First of all, how does this configuration profile 3.0 handle the precedence, like, for example, when multiple profiles target the same kind of payload across different smart groups? That is my first question. My second question is, having Apple's declarative device management in place, and that also actually kind of sets these, apply those settings and restrictions for the devices. What exactly are the unique differentiators of configuration profile 3.0? Does it actually extend the native Apple's capabilities of declarative device management, or is there a kind of redundancy in features there? That's my second question. And my third question is, again, on...
Yeah, so can I ask if the second question was how the conflict between the MDM profiles and DDM profiles and declarations is resolved on the device level?
Yeah, so the conflict between Apple's DDM and the configuration profiles 3.0, because Apple's DDM also does these features like doing these settings and restrictions, configuring the profiles in advance. So how does it differ, or does it extend Apple's native capabilities, or is there a kind of duplication here?
Yeah, so it's not explicitly stated, but from the empirical experiments, it looks like in some of the cases, in case, for example, restrictions, the most restrictive setting are applied. So I haven't found anywhere it's stated explicitly, but if there are some conflicts within the restrictions, for example, we have allow camera set to false and set to true, then the set to false will actually apply on the device. And can you repeat the first question?
So how does it handle the precedence, the configuration profile handle the precedence when multiple profiles actually target the same payload across different smart groups?
Can you reword this question a bit?
Like, for example, if 2 different smart groups are targeting the same payload, how is the configuration profile 3.0 going to handle the precedence? In which order is it going to configure?
Yeah. So is the question about detecting some duplications? So I can have one blueprint with some couple of settings and scoped to the group of devices, and I can have another blueprint with the configuration profiles, and it applies to the same devices from the other group, correct?
Yeah, so basically 2 different profiles are targeting the same payload. Like, for example, 2 different smart groups, they want to update the OS, so that's the payload. So how does it handle the precedence? For which smart group does it give the priority?
So the answer is that both profiles will apply, because you can scope these profiles separately. So if you will have one profile and you will have a device within the group where it's deployed, then it will apply on the device, but you can have a separate blueprint with the separate profile, and it will apply as well there. So we are not currently able to detect such conflicts on the Jamf Pro level. So there is no warning if you are trying to do things like this. However, you can use AI Assistant to help you find them.
Yeah, my third question was again on the AI Assistant. Would configuration profile 3.0 would be able to leverage Jamf's AI Assistant to recommend profiles, or based on user behavior or compliance patterns?
You can ask AI Assistant to do it. I believe the compliance patterns is something that AI Assistant can propose. However, based on the proposed settings for you especially, you need to provide AI Assistant and information what's your industry to help you create better set of the configuration profiles, for example. It's something that will be taken from the LLM knowledge training model. As far as I know, currently we don't providing such preferences per industry or etc. But if you would like to have something like this, just raise the feedback and we can manage.
Sure. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, everybody. This is all that we have time for today. Please give another round of applause for Ark to come up there.
Thank you.
All right, and everybody traveling home today, please travel safe. Thank you for being here.